In this video, we will explore why vocabulary matters in PTE Core. Let's get one thing very clear. In PTE Core, vocabulary is not about how many words you know. It's about how clearly and correctly you can express an idea. Because every section, like speaking, listening, reading, writing, these are built on one thing: meaning, right? So if your vocabulary is weak, then it means you don't understand the meaning properly, right? So if your vocabulary is strong, then everything becomes easier. So vocabulary is not a separate skill. It is the base of all four skills. In speaking, you don't need complicated words. You just need usable words, okay? Words that come to your mind instantly. So you have to focus on three types of vocabulary. First, structure phrases. Words like first of all, in addition, for example, on the other hand. Got it? So these are all structure phases. Okay, these help you to organize your speech. And the second thing that you need to remember in vocabulary is descriptive words. You know about the descriptive words, right? We call it as adjectives. Words like important, significant, useful, effective, common, major. So you will use these in almost every answer. I'm giving you something very important, especially the importance of vocabulary and how to use it effectively, right? So please take a notepad and make a note of all these things that we are discussing. Okay. And the third, we call it as opinion words. Words like I believe, I think, in my opinion, it seems that, I would say. So these help you to express your ideas clearly. Now, when we talk about the usage, that's very important, right? So you don't say it as this is very important. You can say this is extremely important. And don't repeat basic words again and again. Just upgrade slightly, but you have to keep it safe. Got it? So these are the vocabulary tips and the vocabularies that you need to remember for speaking, PTE Core speaking. And let's move on to listening. In listening, you are not using any vocabulary, right? You are recognizing the meaning. So the most important thing here is synonyms. You should know that increase equals to rise equals to growth. Got it? So you should know the synonyms of the words. And decrease means drop, that means decline. Important means significant, that means crucial. Got it? So try to recognize the synonyms and signal words because the exam will not repeat the same word again and again. And focus on the signal words, words like however, although, despite, therefore, in contrast, because these are the signaling words that entirely shift the mindset, right? So you have to pay attention to these words. These words tell you direction. When you hear however, that means something opposite is coming, right? When you hear therefore, that means a conclusion is coming. Got it? So, in listening, don't focus on every word. You have to focus on the idea and direction. Okay? And now, let me give you the vocabulary for reading. So, you will definitely see unknown words when it comes to reading, right? That's very normal. So, your focus should be understanding meaning from the context. For example, if you're getting a statement like the result was negligible, even if you don't know the word negligible, you can understand it means something small or unimportant from the overall context, right? So try to identify from the overall context, and also you can look for the sentence that has come before and after the particular word, okay? Then you have to focus on academic connectors. Words such as however, moreover, therefore, consequently. So these help you understand how ideas are connected. That's why we call them as connectors. Focus on that. Got it? And learn word families. Develop means development, developing. The same way, create, creation, creative. So you have to learn on the word family, family building, because this helps you understand multiple forms of the same idea. Okay? And now let's see the vocabulary for writing. In writing, vocabulary must be clear, formal, and correct. So try to use safe academic words. Important, significant, good, effective. Okay? And for important, you can use other words also the same way. And for bad, like negative, big, substantial, remember to use safe academic words and try to avoid risky words if you're unsure about it. Got it? And try to use linking phrases. We have so many linking phrases, right? Moreover, however, in addition, as a result. So these are all the linking phrases. When you use these type of linking phrases, that will improve the structure. And academic expressions. This is pretty important. This suggests that so and so. It is evident that whatever follows that, and the results indicate that these makes your writing look professional. Got it? So you have to use academic expressions. And remember the most important rule, don't use difficult words if you are not sure. Again, I'm telling you again and again. Please don't use it if you're not sure. If you're sure, then you can use it because one wrong word can break your sentence. And let me tell you, daily vocabulary practice, how it should happen. Most people approach vocabulary like a memory task where they try to learn as many words as possible in one sitting. But that approach usually fails because the brain does not retain words that are only seen and not used. So instead of focusing on quantity, your daily practice should focus on making a small number of words active by connecting them to the real usage, which means you are not just learning meanings, but actually training your brain to recognize, recall, and use those words naturally in different situations. So, the first step is you have to learn fewer words but go deep. This is pretty important. Instead of trying to cover a long list, some students they might think, okay, I need to use more fancy vocabulary, so they try to learn more vocabularies in a day. Don't do that. You have to take a small set of words each day and spend time understanding how they behave in real sentences, which means you don't stop at the definition but explore how the word fits in different way in different context, right? How it changes slightly depending on usage and how it can be used both in speaking and writing, because this depth of understanding is what makes a word stick rather than just pass through your memory. Okay? And the step two is force usage in speaking. Once you learn a word, the next step, what you have to do is to deliberately use it when you speak, even if it feels slightly unnatural at the beginning, because the goal is not about perfection but familiarity. Got it? So, when you repeat the same word in your sentences a few times, your brain starts treating it as something accessible rather than something you need to search for, which is exactly what you need during the exam when time pressure does not allow you to think too much. And step three, you have to train your ears through listening. While listening to English content, you should not just focus on understanding the general idea. Try to pay attention to how familiar words are used in different ways and how new words appear within context, because this helps you build connections between meaning and usage instead of immediately translating unknowing words. You train yourself to guess their meaning based on the surrounding information, which strengthens your ability to handle unfamiliar vocabulary during the test. Okay? So remember this, you don't need thousands of words. You need the right words used correctly, used at the right time. Because in PTE core, vocabulary is not about memorizing, it is about using. So once you focus on usage, every section becomes easier. Okay, that's all for today's video. Kindly like, share, and subscribe for more PTE core tips. See you in the next video. Bye bye.